Welcome to another episode of Southern Arizona Nonprofits, the superheroes impacting our community. We're broadcasting live today on the Tucson Business Channel, a division of Mark Bishop Media, from the Stewart Title corporate offices on Broadway in Tucson, Arizona. We're brought to you today by SCIP, SSCIP. It's the Social Service Contractors Indemnity Pool that's been insuring nonprofits like ours for over 3 decades now. And I'm Barbara McClure, Executive Director of Impact to Southern Arizona, host of the show. And with me today are a few people representing organizations that focus on programs to ensure child safety and also support and awareness for mental illness in our community, in our world, really. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Christina Bickelmann. She's the Executive Director of NAMI here in Tucson, representing the Southern Arizona area. Hi, Christina.
Hi.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And with her is Shelly Mitchell, and she is, or not Mitchell, I'm sorry. That's Jessica. Jernigan. And I always think Shelly and Michelle. So really it's Michelle who goes by Shelly. Yes. Jernigan. Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
You're welcome. And she's the communications and event director at NAMI. And also with us today we have Jessica Mitchell, who's here with Safe Kids Pima County.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming today. And there's so many interesting things about this group of women because they really are making a huge impact in our community. And I thought both of you, for what you do, are going to be great together. So thank you for coming in today. And I think I'm going to start with NAMI, and I'm going to tell you why. Because before the show today, I was working at an event. One of our sponsors had their 10th anniversary in their location. And so the public came in and we were able to put up a table about impact and talked about what we did. But a woman came up to me because we're a nonprofit and she said, "Do you know anywhere where you can get help if you have mental illness?" And I said, "It's the perfect timing because I'm about to spend an hour with exactly the right people." And so it was just kind of interesting kismet, and she was looking for a place to go to find help and talking about how COVID has really brought that on for so many people. And so I thought I'm going to start with NAMI today in Jane's honor because she will be listening and coming back with the resources. And of course, afterwards, I'll connect with you and share her information with you and vice versa. So Christina, what is NAMI Southern Arizona? And exactly how do you explain to people what you do?
Well, we provide no-cost advocacy, education, support, and training for people with mental illness and their loved ones. So primarily we have classes and support groups, and we also have resource specialists who answer the phones and help people find the resources they need, based on what's going on in their lives or in their family members' lives to help them find what they're looking for.
Sure. And specifically today, Jane was asking me if there was a place where people with mental illness or especially depression and anxiety can get together and have a cup of coffee and talk together.
Well, right now, because of COVID, our support groups are on Zoom.
Sure.
So they can participate there and have a coffee at their own place. But right now, because of the spike in numbers, we are not doing them in person. But we're hoping in a couple of months to be able to go back to the in-person family support. And then we have a group. Actually, Connections is the support group for people with mental illness. And that one is meeting in person. It's the first and the third Mondays at Hope. And it's from 6 to 7:30.
Okay, that's great to know. So is there just one location in town, or do you put them on in other places?
Well, that's the only one we have. That's the only one NAMI has for people with mental illness. But there's also the DBSA, which is depression, bipolar, and they have their own. It's a different organization, but they have their own support group.
Okay.
And they were doing theirs in person, but they've recently gone back to Zoom for the same reason.
Sure. Well, by now we're all probably professional at Zoom, I feel. And it still feels like I think when you're just wanting to talk about it and share a story, probably Zoom is still a helpful resource.
Right. And we're not really actually open to the public either still. But we do have people in the office, and we do go outside and talk to people, if they want to, they need some resources in like paper form.
Sure.
But everything is also on our website.
Okay, and then as you said, if somebody can call in and get some answers too.
Mm-hmm. And they're always there to listen.
Oh, sure.
Our resource specialists are very good at listening and working through what it is that the person on the other end of the phone is, calling about.
Oh, that's nice. Well, you might be hearing from Jane soon then.
Okay.
Because I'm going to pass your number on.
Great.
Thank you. Do you charge for your services then?
No, everything that we do is no cost to the participants. So we're funded by grants and donations and the walk that you'll hear about in a little bit, which is our big fundraiser. We do, we basically don't get any local government or federal government or any of that. We don't get any kind of lump sum funding every year. So every year we're beating the bushes for funding to cover our costs of our programs. And most NAMIs, actually, most affiliates are all volunteer-based, and we actually employ people with a mental illness or with a family member with mental illness. So it also provides jobs, and people who have actually have the lived experience, they can actually help somebody, better because they've been through it themselves, or they've been hospitalized, or, they've had their ups and downs. So the fact is that people often say that if they didn't work at NAMI, they wouldn't feel like they could work anywhere, because we're very accommodating, as you have to be.
That's exciting. And I imagine it's a great level of training in a way. I mean, because when you're experiencing it yourself, you can so easily relate to people. So that's easier or a better connection, I would think, than just training somebody in those skills.
Yeah, and the NAMI model is based on, you have to, if you're going to teach a family-to-family class, or NAMI Basics, which is a course for caregivers of adolescents with mental health conditions, you have to have a family member. You have to be affected personally in order to get the training, in order to teach the classes, and all of it goes through NAMI National. So we can't just hire off the street and train somebody to do to run a program. They have to already have that qualification of having the lived experience or having a family member. Same thing with the peer support and the peer classes that we have. We have classes for peer-to-peer and peer leader training, and we're the only affiliate for NAMI, anyways, in the state that actually has a peer support specialist training, which actually, if they go through the first two classes, which are NAMI classes, the peer support specialist class is not a NAMI thing, but it actually allows the people who go through and graduate to get a peer support specialist certification from the state, which allows them to work in the behavioral health field as a peer support specialist. So a lot of people go through that program specifically so that they can get that certification and get a job and get back out there.
That's very interesting. And what great sense of empathy I would think all those people have. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. I know that behavioral health has become such a hot topic, and it already was before COVID, but since COVID, of course, like Jane was commenting, to be alone and to be just kind of isolated, it was tough. So have you found an increased use of services or increased phone calls?
Well, we have this, pretty much the standard classes that we do mostly quarterly, but we have been getting more phone calls. We also have a program called Ending the Silence, which is a youth-based program, and so it's a 55-minute presentation to middle school and high school kids, where it talks about the warning signs of mental illness. It talks about stigma. It talks about how it's very common, and to try to break the stigma, to get kids to talk about it. And then we have young presenters who, in that particular program, have to be 35 years of age or younger, and who have had a mental illness, or they presented with a mental illness in their middle school, high school years. So they actually tell their story to the kids. And the kids then can relate to somebody, also because of the fact that, they're closer to their age, but a lot of these kids are not talking about what they're going through, and they hear somebody talk about what they went through and where they are now, and they see them up there telling their story, sharing and being vulnerable. And I think it really breaks through that stigma, and they get to really get they ease up and being able to talk about it. They're more apt to go for help. They're more apt to notice if their friend or a family member is having problems or in a crisis mode than they might have before. Because I know that we do a survey at the end, and usually the kids will say, oh, being able to really hear somebody that's gone through what I'm going through, or they might say that, oh, I didn't know my friend's been showing these signs, and now I know what it is, and now I can help that person. So that's actually the biggest boom as far as we have been doing tons of these presentations. We did something like 95 in October, November, and part of December.
Oh my gosh!
And and it's pretty much as we can do really with our presenters. We have about 10 presenters. And then we also have an adult inner own voice program. So that program actually is adults with mental illness talking to adults. So it can be a little bit more, you have to be a little more careful with younger kids.
I was going to say a little heavier on the adult side, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to share probably some things that you might not with a younger person. But on the other hand, we do touch on suicide. And one of the biggest fallacies is that talking about suicide actually encourages people to take their life, which is proven to be absolutely wrong.
That's good to know.
And so if you talk about it, then you ask them, do they have a plan? And if they're really already kind of down that road where they've already thought about, they're having suicidal ideation, and they're already going down the road towards figuring out how they're going to take their life, or they start giving away their belongings, or they start doing certain things, then they're making a plan to leave.
Right.
So by talking about it and realizing that people don't want them to leave, that they want them to stay, it does really, really help to turn that around. And that's our hope, especially because of COVID and the isolation and the additional just depression, anxiety, all of the things that teenagers, anybody has anyway. But in that age group, it's hard enough to be in middle school. You start having all of these COVID-related isolations, and maybe you have family problems, and you have to be home with your family.
Oh, sure. It kind of doubles up when school's out under COVID. I'm sure that's stress.
Yeah, it puts stress on the family to try to be there for the kids. Maybe they're not the best parents.
Sure.
Maybe they're scary and hard to be around. So. I think it's those kids need to have some outlet. So they do actually we do work with Castelos Niños too, and they're in the schools, in many of the schools. And so we introduce them to the person that is their school, Castelos Niños representative. And then the kids know there's somebody there that they can go right to. And they have counselors, and they can go to their teachers. And we also ask in that survey, if they feel that COVID or any, if they're feeling the pressures of their mental health, that would they like to have somebody call them or email them? So if they put their information down, then our resource specialists will reach out to them to see if there's any resources or anything, or if they just want to talk. So we're trying to do as much as we can to follow up with the kids to keep them moving in a positive direction.
Sure. It's exciting. I think I know Safe Kids, of course. You work with a lot of children in your programming, and I don't know that you necessarily have anything to address the mental health, but certainly you have a new resource to pass on to people. What's your primary program, Jessica, that you at Safe Kids Pima County do?
So Safe Kids Pima County is a coalition of lots of community partners. We have American Red Cross, law enforcement, fire department. We have swim schools. We have the health department. But our primary mission is to reduce injury or preventable injuries in children. And so we have resources that help just educate parents on all the different avenues of how we could try to minimize and completely cut out these preventable injuries.
Sure. Many years ago, Impact partnered with Safe Kids, and we went and got some car seats, which have to be put in by a tech, by the way, for you listeners. At Impact, people try to donate car seats. I'm like, oh, we can't actually take used car seats. And even as a parent, maybe they didn't do that when I was a younger parent, but you just bought a car seat and you put it in the car yourself, following the printed directions. You didn't have a tech do it for you, and you didn't really have any classes or any lessons. So
yeah, we do a big part of what we do is child passenger safety and just getting the education out to parents, because we do know that car seats are misused a lot. And a lot of it is based because parents just don't know any better. If you look at owner's manuals for car seats, they're big. Then you have to try to look at your vehicle owner's manual. It's big. It's a lot of information. And so we try to push and share the information that we have certified child passenger safety techs out there in the community that are willing to help. We do the car seat classes to try to make sure we get the information out there. We don't just give out car seats. We always make sure that parents take the education class with it, because we want to ensure that they're using it properly and installing it the right way.
Sure, that's important. And I know when my children were young, because it was so long ago, I'm trying to think, they weren't even in a car seat very long. I think car seats were relatively new at the time.
Yeah,
so.
I'm 39, and my parents don't remember really ever putting me in a car seat. My mom talks about me laying on the back seat in one of those little carrier bed things, and so
Sure.
Yeah, it's definitely changed, and it's even changed. My oldest is 10, and it's changed since she was born. So there's a lot of information out there that parents have to figure out and kind of weave through.
Well, now I've noticed, I think somebody had said to me that children have to be in a car seat till they're 12, or a booster seat, so I'm not even sure what the law is in Arizona.
So I believe that our law is very vague, and the reason I say this is because it has one general statement, and it says that any child under the age of 8 and under 4'9" must be in a car seat or booster seat. And so what that means is that once a child turns 8, they can get out, or if a child hits 4'9" before the age of 8, they can get out. But it doesn't give parents any guidance on when to transition their kid. When should they go from rear-facing to a forward-facing car seat, and when should they move into a booster seat? And I wish our law did that a little bit better. But we always try to tell parents that we want to keep kids in a booster seat or a car seat until they're 4'9", because that's the height that they have to be in most vehicles for the seatbelt to fit them properly and offer them the best protection. So even though our law says age 8, it's not always the safest thing for the child.
Sure. Well, that's good to know, because I see so many, and when you go to a place like Target where they're all laid out, and to your point, front facing, rear facing, and then larger. There seem like there are small car seats for infants, and then larger and larger, I think. How many times do you have to swap out a car seat?
It honestly depends, because they now make car seats that have a 10-year lifespan, and that start at 4 pounds for a child. And so those, we call them all-in-ones, because they rear face, they forward face, they turn themselves into a booster seat. But you do have the ones that just rear face for an infant, or the ones that just forward face. And so, yeah, there's over 400 different car seats out on the market, I believe was the last number I was told. So even being a certified child passenger tech, and I'm an instructor on top of that, I still don't know every car seat that's out there or how to do every install, because every car seat manufacturer wants something just a little bit different.
Sure, and a lot of styling to them too.
Yeah.
So that's it's an interesting thing that takes up, when you think about it, 8 years old. It's as my husband told my brother once when his daughter turned 9, he said, she's halfway out of the house, which he panicked over. But I think that is a long time. It's half the time they're in the car as a parent, right?
Yeah, I have a friend who's only 4'9".
Sure.
She's an adult, so I think she's been out of the car seat for a while. But
and I get that a lot, because parents are like, well, I'm only 5 foot or whatever, and should I be in a booster seat? But if you look at the front driver and passenger seat, we can adjust our seatbelts to make them fit better. We can adjust our seats. Our seats do all sorts of cool things. But when you get into second and third rows, it's just not as common. The second rows I've seen in vehicles are starting to get some seatbelt adjusters to help make seatbelts fit better. Oh, nice. But it's still not a very common thing.
Sure. Well, we get a lot of questions asked of us at Impact about car seats and where to go to get them. So now we'll know exactly who to pass them on to.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
Thank you. And I know you have some other areas of safety that you focus on. One that we've used in the past was swimming lessons.
Yes.
Or swimming, because in Tucson we have such crazy statistics. And we launch a beginning of summer campaign at our local swimming pool every year except through COVID. Everything's except through COVID, right, these days. Right. And so we've done some fun things in safety whistles and things like that we've passed out. So what are you doing for swimming? So, it's coming soon.
Yes. Yeah, it's already, 78 degrees today.
Yay!
So water safety is the second big portion of what we try to focus on. And one of the reasons is because even though we are not near any bodies of water, we are the third. We're fighting with Florida and Texas. We're always in the top 3 of most drownings, child drownings, which is crazy because Florida and Texas are near bodies of water. We're not even touching one. But it's because of our hot seasons. Almost everybody has a pool or access to a pool. And so we really do push the Water Watcher cards, which we try to give out to parents. And we want them to use those because whoever's holding that card knows that they are in charge of watching the kids. Because we know that at pool parties and things like that, everybody else thinks somebody else is watching the kids. And that's when those drownings happen. And so we have the Water Watcher cards. We do a program called Water Safety is for You, which is a first grade curriculum. We give the teachers the supplies to teach, and they teach 6 different lessons, all on water safety. And then we have goodie bags and stuff that go to the students. And then we also work with TMC and Pima County Natural Parks and Rec to do what we call is Vested Up. So it's funded through Children's Miracle Network and Credit Union for Kids, but we provide 800 free swim lessons. And along with those swim lessons, we provide the life jackets because we know that one set of swim lessons is not enough to be a proficient swimmer. So we want to make sure they have that life-saving product to keep them afloat and to keep them in the pool until they become that proficient swimmer.
Well, I like the way you're partnering with the Parks Department and Natural Resources because we do have little lakes and little, inlets and rivers where people go, and they usually don't necessarily put kids in jackets. I grew up in Southern California, exposed to the beach and boating, and so we've always worn life jackets, and we always took the full gamut of swimming lessons.
Right.
But here, it is interesting that we are so close with Florida and Texas.
Yeah,
like
we're
you
always
say.
Fighting for the top. Somewhere in there. We're usually around the top 3.
Gosh, that's kind of scary. And it's always shocking. Don't you, all of you feel like when you're watching the news, you hear those statistics once summer comes, those sad stories.
It seems to be happening all the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
we've already started. We've already had one incident that it was a PEDS patient, which is a child under 5. They didn't drown, or it wasn't fatal. And so that's another stigma that we like to throw out there is that a drowning is either fatal or non-fatal. If a kid was submerged underwater and water entered their lungs, they've drowned.
Okay.
Whether they've died is fatal. If they've survived, it's a non-fatal drowning. There's terms that go around that secondary drowning and things like that, and those don't exist. It's either you've drowned or you haven't drowned. So
I really like the idea of the card.
Yeah.
Having been at the beach, I think that idea of holding something, and even if you didn't have a card and you were in a group of people, you could say, okay, you have the whatever it is, right? Just
even
the
if it's
stuffed
a
animal from your
or,
child's.
Yeah.
Well, and even a stuffed animal from your child's room. Okay, if you're holding the porcupine, you're in charge, and that's I can see how it would be helpful. That's kind of cool. We as mothers, we all took our kids to the beach, and we had a bay on one side and the ocean on the other, and we would sit in a semicircle, and we would just keep moving the circle around. And the 3 parents who were in that piece that faced the kids, those 3 parents were the ones who we all kept a lookout. But like you're saying, somehow you have to designate somebody.
You do, because we get sidetracked with our cell phones or our Kindles and our books on, all our different devices and things like that. Or we even get kind of distracted by just talking to one another, catching up on things that have been going on. And so you really want to make sure that one person is actively watching those kids.
Yeah, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that to my neighbors and in my neighborhood, because that'll be pretty cool. Thank you. I think I wanted to get back to, those are great things, and I know it affects so many kids. When you think about, I don't know how many, if you have a statistic, I'm just trying to think about how many kids are in car seats at any one time.
I have no idea.
I mean, when you think about the population of Tucson, and I think, okay, 1 million people.
I know that I was, when I was writing my bio for this, I've been doing this for 8 years, and I know that I've taught over 5,000 families and distributed over 5,000 car seats. So that's just the piece that I've touched. I don't even know how many people haven't even come to me and have kids in car seats.
Sure,
So.
probably plenty.
Yeah.
And I think, at Impact, it's interesting because we have a wide demographic and we've been around for 22 years. And it's almost so predictable, it's odd. But in our clientele, because we serve families, everyone of all ages, 0 to 105, but primarily their households. And we'll find 25% of the demographic are children under 18. Mm-hmm. So if you took 1 million people and then carved out 250 as children, and then half again if they're going to be in car seats till they're 8, then you're down to a quick 125,000 children riding in car seats, and like you say, with access to water. And of course, people you can drown in a puddle.
You can drown in as little as 1 inch of water.
Right, face down. So it's a good reminder as the summer comes. Thank you. And I want to hear about some of the other things too, but I was also going to ask you, Christina, in terms of mental illness, because I know in Pinal County they're working to bring mental illness in, or to take mental illness out of the jail system. And so these programs where you don't go to jail if your crime was victimless and you had some mental illness going on at the time. So why do you think it is people don't seek help? Is it that they don't know where to go, or they're afraid of what will happen?
Well, I think it's a little of both of those things. I think people, first of all, one of the things that came up in one of our presentations by one of our young presenters was, she said, I was depressed. I wouldn't get out of bed. I wasn't taking care of my hygiene. And she says, because I didn't want anybody to call me the C word, the crazy word. Mm-hmm. And so people don't want to be labeled as crazy or different or other. They don't want to acknowledge a mental health condition because then people, there's bullies and there's a lot of, the attitude, well, if you're depressed, you can just get up and get out of bed. And, well, it's not, if you're clinically depressed, you're not going to be just getting up and, pulling it together just because you want to. I mean,
sure.
You're not choosing to be depressed.
Right. It's not just changing your attitude in the morning.
No.
Yeah.
No. So, I think, that's the primary thing is, just stigma. People don't want to, and there's a lot of cultural differences too, on how families address things. Like if you're in a Hispanic family or an Asian family, you don't talk about it outside the family. Sure. Because they're already figuring that they're, that they're already sort of stigmatized in some people's eyes for being, people of color, different ethnicity. So to actually acknowledge something else, they don't, they're even more closed.
Sure. Well, that's interesting. If we can, because this is so important, I'd like to come back to it, but I'd like to take a quick break and find out some information from Skip.
Today's program is brought to you by Skip, the Social Service Contractors Indemnity Pool. Skip is a member-owned, member-directed insurance provider with more than 3 decades of insuring Arizona social service organizations for their property, general and professional liability, and auto claim exposures. With an Arizona-based staff of claim underwriting and risk management professionals, Skip specializes in providing personalized service, affordable premiums, and coverage which meets and often exceeds the state of Arizona's contract requirements for social service providers. For more information, visit our website at www.sscip.org or ask your insurance agent about protecting your organization with insurance coverage through Skip.
All right, and we are back. Thank you. And then again, we're here with representatives from NAMI and also Safe Kids, Pima County. So we're talking about children's health and well-being and adults also in mental health. But we were kind of focused on kids and with the mental health issues. So I recognize NAMI is doing some fun things coming up here in April to raise some money to help build awareness and get the word out. And we have with us Shelly, who is she's actually the manager of the walk. So Shelly, would you like to tell us a little bit about what we're going to be doing at your walk?
Yes, definitely. We are extremely excited that this year our annual NAMIWalk fundraiser is going to be back in person.
Nice.
On April 2nd at Kennedy Park in the Fiesta area. And we've got a lot of entertainment that will be there. We've got some dignitaries that will be there. We're expecting a big house this year because people are anxious to get back out there.
I think that's for sure, that people are really ready to get out.
Yes.
And of course, it's outside.
And
so
we're starting to see it, yes.
You'll have some help with that in terms of attendance, people not worried about COVID.
Right. Well, we're still going to have, those people that aren't ready to attend outdoor events like that and stuff with that many people. And we understand. We are going to recommend everybody to come prepared and wear a mask. Just for safety precautions, and better be safe than sorry.
Sure.
But being that it's outdoors, it's really, and we've been virtual the last 2 years. So being that it's back in person, people are really starting to call in, bring donors in, bring sponsorships in. So we're seeing a good pull so far.
Oh, that's exciting. So when you do a walk, where are you going to walk?
It is at Kennedy Park, and we will be walking through the park, off the Fiesta area, onto Ajo, in through across La Cholla.
Yeah, there are several existing trails. And anyway, there's several existing trails that we've used. So we have a 1K, a 3K, and a 5K.
Oh, nice.
So for the most part, pardon me?
That would be mine. So you can pick whichever length you can finish.
So the 1K is kind of around the block from, goes out on Ajo and goes north on La Cholla and back into the Fiesta area, which is on the northwest corner of La Cholla and Ajo. It's not over on Mission, and it's not the lake. So
okay.
A lot of and we noticed that the GPS actually, if you put the address in, it takes you to the lake, which is on the other side of La Cholla. It's on the east side of La Cholla.
Sure.
But we use existing paths, so most of it's really pretty out there. There's a lot of great native vegetation, and people get to go out and walk and have nice views. It's not like you're downtown in a urban setting.
Sure.
So people really enjoy it. And the Fiesta area is really set up really beautifully with a big bowl-shaped kind of amphitheater with a stage, and so that really works out well for entertainment. And I'll turn it back over to Shelly because this is her first year, so she hasn't actually walked the trails yet.
But
I will be taking her out there.
Yes,
she's putting all of the entertainment together and all of the logistics. It sounds like for sure.
Yes, we've been having a lot of fun with that. We've got 2 honorary chairs this year. We actually have Mayor Ed Honey from Marana.
Nice.
And Sheriff Chris Nanos from the Pima County Sheriff's Department.
That's nice to have some big names.
Yes. We are very pleased to have both of them.
Sure.
To show a broader spectrum of not just Pima County, outside of our areas coming in, and, especially with the Sheriff's Department coming in this year. With our new 988 crisis line that's going in July, we thought it was important to bring somebody with one of the police departments in to show that we're all there for each other.
And I think that's probably, for people with mental illness who've had trouble with the police in the past, it's pretty intimidating.
Yes.
So that's nice to bring them in so that they get to meet them and feel a little more comfortable.
Exactly.
And recognize that they're supporting.
Right. Yeah. And that's the big thing that we want to get across is Sheriff Nanos is a big supporter of the mental health out here. And it's just important for all of us to be able to show we're all in this together. Nobody is, trying to get the stigma out away from law enforcement and mental health.
Sure. So if people are interested in the walk, on our show site, we'll have all of the different contacts and websites and links. But in general, if you want to walk the walk, then you just come. You can find it on your website and register. How far ahead do you have to register?
You could come out the day of and register.
Okay.
So right now we've got our walk is Namisa.org. .org slash Southern Arizona. No, did I
It's
say that right?
NAMI.org.
NAMI.org, sorry.
/Southern Arizona.
/Southern Arizona. And on there you can go in and you can log in and join as just a single participant and start collecting donations. Or you can join a team or make your own team and start bringing people in and bringing those donations in.
All right, that's fun. When you were doing it virtually, how did you do that?
Same way.
Well, people still had
walked in
teams,
home?
and they actually would send us pictures, or they'd do little videos with their phones. And I actually took my dog and put a walk shirt on her and
fun.
took her on a little walk, and I filmed her on my phone and then sent it in. So we had a lot of photos, and people would take hikes. So it was basically your own way. So instead of being all together and using the trail system that we normally do, people would pick something that they wanted to do that was in honor of recognizing mental health and having a good mental health day and going out and doing something that they enjoyed.
That's nice.
So people did all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
So even if they couldn't come or were concerned about COVID, they could maybe still do it virtually?
Yes.
Some people cooked. Some people, did different things that they enjoyed.
Sure.
So
That's neat. Well, and so that's still maybe an option if people are a little nervous about coming out in person and being in groups.
we're always happy to have photos.
Oh, yes.
Oh, sure.
Yes, the more photos, the better.
All right. So we'll know. We'll have it on the site where to send those in. That'll be fun. Well, it sounds like you have a lot planned. And then I know you have, you were talking about entertainment. So kids' activities, music, things to keep everybody.
Keep everybody busy and occupied for. The gates open at 7:30. The entertainment and everything will start around 8. And we expect to have our honorary chairs kick off the walk at 9 a.m. And everything should be done by 10:30, 11.
Oh, that's nice. And then you still have the day.
Yeah, and so hopefully no bad heat. and if it is, we'll be done before it gets too bad.
I was going to say it's only April.
April, but we never know.
That's
That's
it.
very true.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of fun, though. And then do you have a fundraising goal for this year?
Yes, we do. Our fundraising goal this year is at $150,000. As of date today, we are at $49,000.
Congratulations.
33% of our goal met already.
That's great.
And we have a team goal of 100 teams, and we're at 33 right now. So we're still pushing for those teams.
Sure.
But we're getting some great response on sponsorships, and we're tugging along. We're doing pretty good.
It sounds good. It sounds like a lot of fun. Well, and it's a big project, I know. And in Tucson, everybody buys their tickets at the last minute.
Right.
Do you find that?
Yes. We'll get a lot of people that'll show up the day of. And I think a lot of people are just hesitant still, wondering, are we going to have to, at the last minute, say, no, it's going to be virtual again like we had to 2 years ago, or, So a lot of people will be waiting for the last minute, and that's fine. We're there that day, and if you want to come that day and register and...
Well, we don't actually charge for registration either. It's anybody can
nice.
participate. And we don't actually register that day. What we do is we make them sign a liability waiver.
Sure.
Because we don't want to get everybody backed up. So they can pre-register at a time. They can just sign the waiver that day and walk. And of course, we want you to raise money, but it's not mandatory. I mean, obviously it helps us a lot.
Sure.
It helps to, provide the funds for our programs, but we don't want that to keep anybody who wants to come out and participate if they feel like, oh, I can't go because I don't feel comfortable asking somebody for money, or I don't have any money. We want you to come anyway.
That's nice to know, because I think, like you were just saying, just being out in nature to me makes it a good mental health day, personally. Well, thank you. We look forward to that. That'll be a lot of fun. And Jessica, how about you? What do you do for fundraising at Safe Kids? If you're a coalition, everybody doing their own, or?
So Safe Kids Pima County, we are pretty much funded through Tucson Medical Center's foundation, which raises funds through Children's Miracle Network. They kind of set some money aside for children's programs. Additionally, I do apply for grants. So we do have a big grant that we get from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety every year to help cover car seat costs. Geico funds us for some car seats. And then Safe Kids Worldwide, which is our overarching umbrella
they also will throw out some grants here and there from Johnson & Johnson for medication safety. We get grants from Bell, which is a helmet producer.
Oh, sure.
For like Bike to School Day or Walk to School Day. So there's lots of different little grants, but the main source of our funding does come from the Tucson Medical Center Foundation.
Well, that's very nice. And they're on your campus.
Yes, they are.
That's right. Jessica works for TMC as the outreach manager.
Yep, so I've got a two-part job.
Yes, you do. And it sounds huge. So thank you for doing that. How about sharing with us some of the other programs? So we've got swimming and car seats, but as you say, there's so many others.
So we also do bike safety. We provide free bike helmets. Parents just, need to get a hold of me and set up an appointment. We do need kids present when we give out bike helmets because we want to make sure that they have the proper sized helmet, especially those kids that are like between 6 and 10 years. Their heads could be lots of different sizes. So we always want to make sure we give them the right size helmet. And we do provide that for free. And then last, we're just a good place for resources. Even though our big focuses are car seats and water safety and bike, we have resources for all of the things injury prevention. So fire safety, medication safety, poisonings, things like that, safe sleep. So we are a big resource place too.
And that medications one is so big.
Yes.
And I think about mental illness and the medications in people's medicine cabinets. Mm-hmm. And at Impact, we are always talking about that with our families, especially grandparents raising grandchildren.
Yes, that's a big one because grandparents don't think about it because kids are out of the house.
Right.
So if they're starting to babysit little ones who are getting curious and they don't realize, there's medicine in their purse or just sitting next to their bed, it's teaching the grandparents, too, that we need to make sure we keep all that stuff up and away.
And I think there's safety for the kids that don't know what those pills are. And then I think there's safety for the kids who do know exactly what those pills are.
Exactly. Yep.
We just had a senior in our group who needed to have her adult daughter was coming in to take care of her. And she discovered her medications because she had a lot of pain medication. Her medications were disappearing. Mm-hmm. And you think, it's... I don't know. And people don't count their pills. And so they're high school students or college students, adults can pull one here and there and they have no idea. But especially for little kids who don't know. And so many of these pills look like little familiar candies.
Well, and the thing too now is with marijuana being legal, now we've got all the candy lookalikes.
Sure, those gummies.
Yep.
Yeah, or good point.
They all, if you look them up, there's, the candies look like gummy bears, Sour Patch Kids, Swedish Fish. And so it's making sure that if we are eating those, that we definitely keep those up and away.
Sure. I hadn't even thought of that one yet.
Kids can't tell the difference.
No, that's hard, yeah. It would be hard, I would think, anyway. You really would have to separate things. Yes. So that's an important one. And I think we, as families, forget about those. Yeah. Because I think also, we put them up and we think they're in the bathroom and they're out of way. But my kids are all taller than I am, so that's irrelevant.
Kids are smart. They're really fast climbers, and they can get into things faster than you think they can.
Yeah, sooner in age. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
or just quick anyway?
Even little ones, like 2-year-olds, if they want something, they will get to it. And they are faster than any of us think they are.
And do any of you have any luck getting the childproof cap off?
No, but I give it to my 9-year-old. She'll get it off.
Exactly.
That's how I feel. I've seen them, too, where they invert. So if you don't have children at home, you can invert it and it just screws on. But then, of course, that's a terrible thing when your kids come to visit.
Is they're not child-proof. They're child-resistant. I've had them pop open in my purse, and they're just bouncing around in there. So
Sure. Well, I know that in our community we had some what they call farming going on, and this is another thing with the drugs and this is always so disturbing to me, but high school kids would have parties, and they would take pills from their parents' medicine cabinet. And then they go to a party and everybody takes whatever they brought and puts it in a bowl and they mix it up and just grab a handful. And I think of the risk in that is just crazy. So any of that information is so important. And I know we at Impact, we give out 500 food bags. 500 families a month receive food from us. So in our food bag, we're putting flyers from Safe Kids on all these different things, the swimming safety or swimming lessons, where to go for swimming lessons and things like that. So it's a good partnership. Thank you for doing that with us. And same with mental health, information. We are a resource provider as well, Impact. And again, people think, oh, that's the food bank up there in Catalina, but we do so much more. And for us, getting that information out is really, really important. So I think that's really critical. And I know you do some programs in schools. So what are you doing in the schools?
So I already kind of touched on the water safety program that we do with first graders. And then we work very closely with Head Start programs. The parents of children who go to Head Start have to attend so many parent meetings a year. And so we work with those Head Starts to bring this information to them as well. And so the medication safety, the bike safety, the car seats, all of that. I know TFD, one of our coalition members, they also go in and they talk a lot about the fire safety and stuff like that. And so that's the biggest partnership. And then we do have schools here and there who reach out and want to do more on the bike safety and getting students bike helmets, because they see a lot of kids who come into school riding their bikes and don't have the proper helmet.
Oh, gosh. My husband told our children, he calls it the brain bucket.
Yep.
And he says, you don't want to be caught without your brain bucket. So so that always kind of brings back a funny vision for me. And
so we're always trying to get into schools more and more, but teachers are busy and it's difficult, but I'm glad we have some of those partnerships.
Sure. And I bet it was difficult in the past. And when you were talking, Christine, about going into schools too, I think it had to be really tough. And are schools back in? Are both of you able to get back into classes to do these things?
But it is still a problem for teachers who are trying to catch kids up.
Sure.
So to take an hour, but we have noticed, because of kids being out of school for so long, that they're realizing that they have to take care of their kids' mental health. So even though maybe they should or are being pushed to worry about the reading and the writing and arithmetic, it's if the kids are in pain and suffering anxiety and depression and self-harming or stuff like that, you have to take care of that first. First, you have to take care of the mental and physical health, and then they're going to be receptive to doing their lessons.
Sure.
So I think that they're making more time than they would have pre-pandemic, really.
Yeah, well, that's one other silver lining from the pandemic.
It certainly has brought it to the forefront. Everybody realizes that they could be affected. Their mental health has been affected, where they might have been cruising along fine until all of a sudden, they didn't have a job, or, they couldn't go anywhere and they're used to doing certain things. Then, and the isolation, even adults, right? It affects their mental health. And now all of a sudden it's kind of like a light bulb went off, that, it's not just those other people that have this problem. I actually am feeling kind of lousy, and so it makes it a little bit easier, I think, to sell the importance of how important mental health is to everybody.
Sure.
I think you start to see when kids are being taught, all of the parts of the body, and for whatever reason they don't talk about the head and the brain.
That's an interesting point.
It's like, well, you can't really have the rest of it if you don't have the brain working. So
yeah, that makes sense.
But it's funny, because I remember seeing websites and I'm going, well, you have all these other ailments, or, heart, here's the heart disease, here's the kidney disease, here's the liver, here's the and they didn't even have the head on the picture. I'm going, what? So anyways, it's kind of funny, but not funny.
Sure, because it is important. Yeah, definitely. I know we had a family member who was a teacher in college, and as COVID shut down, he was starting to feel like, oh gosh, without the people around, it really is very, very different. So really, depending how COVID affected you or how isolated you became. My husband and I could isolate on the weekend. We went to work, and Impact was able to stay open the whole time. So we got that socialization at work, at safe distancing and wearing masks and gloved up and all those safety precautions. But to go home on the weekend and just be the two of us was really kind of like a vacation, to be honest, because it was just the two of us and we could focus on things. But for people who, that isolation when they left work and had to work from home, that was really hard. So,
and I can agree with that. When COVID hit, my husband, he had a 2-week on, 2-week off schedule because they were trying to maximize, the time or limit the exposure of the people. And so I would be home for 2 weeks when he was on with the kids during summer break and stuff. And I was like, yes, I get to work from home. This is going to be amazing. I can tell you that every single time at the end of those 2 weeks, I was so ready to go back to work. I missed my people. I missed seeing my people. I missed having adult conversations.
Sure. And it is interesting because, I think when we think mental health, how different people think about what that is, how it's defined. And so really it's probably not necessarily as severe as we think of it. And like you're saying, just that alone, those kinds of feelings are mental health issues. So,
right. I mean, you can have a mental health issue and not have a mental illness.
Right.
And vice versa, So I think, we just have to be cognizant of the fact that we don't know how someone else is feeling. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know what they've been through. So we just all have to be a lot more compassionate. And really, if we see somebody in distress, take the time to see how they're doing. Even if you don't really know them, if you see somebody struggling, you can say, "Are you okay?" And maybe they'll answer, maybe they won't, but at least it might make them feel like there's somebody that, even for that moment, that cares.
Sure. And that's important.
And there's a lot of people who are single who are, they're home alone, or, latchkey kids, the parents are gone and the kids are by themselves because they have to work.
Sure.
They can't stay home. So it's been a very stressful thing. I think it's stressful under normal circumstances, right?
Sure.
But this has really brought it to the forefront.
So check in on your neighbors, check in on your family, sign up for the walk. And does the walk have a name that it's, that's branded as?
They've been doing
Walk?
NAMIWalks your way.
Sure.
But we're basically, going back in person this year. We're just NAMIWalks Southern Arizona.
There you go.
Everybody can still do it their way. Like we said, you can still do it virtual if you wanted to. But, we're NAMIWalks Southern Arizona in our 16th year, and we're going strong.
That sounds good. So we're going to get out and walk, and we're going to have a good mental health day while we're out in the sunshine and the outdoors and the nature.
And bring your kids, bring your pets.
There you go. That sounds like fun.
As long as they're on a leash, and
yes,
pick up
as long as they're on a leash, and you pick up after them.
And that little paper bag or the plastic bag.
We usually have the little doggy do bags that we pass out.
That sounds smart.
And we actually also have water bowls and treats at the water stations for the dogs.
Oh, there you go. All right. I might have to come
get as spoiled
down.
as we do.
I was going to say, I might have to come with my dog. That would be fun. And then, Jessica, thank you, too, for all the safety things you bring to families and to children especially. And I am going to have fun sharing that resource because
I've got lots to give you.
You do. And there's so many families in Tucson and so many families who need that kind of help. And the gal at the front desk said to me the other day, she had somebody call, and I think, in fact, we were commenting earlier last week, I guess, that Angel had called Safe Kids to help somebody find a car seat. And it's the idea that people don't know what help to ask for. And I think that's what's really important about introducing our community to these organizations. So we appreciate you joining us today and hope that if you're looking for some resources for mental illness or just looking to learn more about it, if you have someone in your family that seems to be struggling and you're not even sure if it is mental illness, or if you need car seats and swim lessons and any other thing that will help keep your child safe, bike helmets, then reach out to Safe Kids Pima County. Thank you for joining us, and thank you again to all three of you ladies for joining me around the table, and we will catch up on another episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.